I think that we'll crack on because Susie's got a lot to say to you. So welcome to the webinar on how to keep pigs on 5 acres and run a successful business. We're very lucky to have Susie Williams from Cynhyrchu Welsh Pork here, who has done it and who is a very experienced pig keeper and very experienced at marketing. So welcome, Susie, and so I'll just hand you over.
Excellent. Right. See if I can share my screen with everybody. That will make a bit more sense, won't it? Okay. Hopefully everybody can see that. Pat, can you see that there?
I can see that, yes. You're on the, you need to go back to the beginning.
I do indeed. Good job, this isn't my full-time job, isn't it, doing this? Okay, so bear with me. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about pig production on 5 acres and just basically how we do it. Okay, so who are we and what do we do? So just to give you a little bit of background, we started keeping pigs back in 2010. Back then it was just a hobby to fill our own freezer. That's before it became an obsession, which it is now. We were running another business at the time from home and slowly the pigs took over. We closed the printing business that we had and we started working on the pigs full-time in 2013. We divide our roles between Martin looking after all things pork and actually running the business, and my job is to look after all things pig and to market us. So when we started, we kept the pigs outdoors, mostly in arks, but we did actually have some tents as well, which you can see in the bottom right of the image there. And we used to buy in weaners in the first few years, so we didn't farrow at that point. And when we started to breed ourselves, we decided that it suited our sows and us to farrow indoors. So we've always free farrowed, and we felt then, and we still feel now, that for our pigs, that by being indoors, piglets have a really good start in life if they're protected from the elements, and we can monitor those all-important few hours and days. The importance of those few hours really is incredible, making sure that the piglets have got a place to eat and they've got bellies full of warm colostrum. It just is so much easier to do it indoors with lights and good footing. So we moved our pigs indoors. We were there for about 3 years in 2016. Great experience, and for many different reasons we've moved the entire herd back home again now. Back to an outdoor situation. It's been fascinating actually watching the pigs change from being indoor to outdoor pigs. And our mantra for our business has always been a short life but a good life. It's all about the welfare of the pigs. So being outdoors again has really opened up the opportunities for this to happen for us. So we've come back home, back to an outdoor situation, back on the 5 acres as we talked about. And our current cycle or aim is to farrow 1 to 2 sows every 3 weeks all year round. And my personal goal is to supply our own butchery with 70 kilo carcasses at dead weight and as close to 24 weeks as possible. So we're achieving weaned litters of 12 on average, and we're weaning in week 7. The sows are put straight back to the boar or AI'd at 3 to 5 days post-weaning. So the ladies come into the farrowing house a few days before they're due to farrow. We keep them outside as long as possible, just for them to kind of loaf around. They just come in a couple of days before, just to sort of settle themselves in. We quite often find that they're quite happy to come in. They're actually almost asking to be brought in when they realise the routine that we have. And as I mentioned, the girls always free farrow. There is a work in progress picture of our maternity pen in the bottom left of the screen. So the maternity pens are in an insulated building. This way we can regulate the temperatures better than we could if they were in an ark. This also helps with soundproofing to give the sows a chance to relax and just ignore the outside world. We have heat lamps on hand, and we have cameras set up in each of the pens so we can monitor the progress of the sows without disturbing them. And if you just look above the image on the left-hand side there, that's one of our screenshots from the camera where we can monitor. We can also listen in as well. There's audio on it, so we can hear what's going on in there. There's a safe area, you can just about see it in the top left there. There's a safe creep area for the piglets to snuggle into. When it's warm enough in there already and there's no heat lamp on, we use a red lamp to mimic the heat lamp. And the red light encourages the piglets to crawl into the safety of the creep area. The creep area is half round with upright bars, and this is an attempt to prevent mum from squashing the piglets. We've placed the water troughs and the feeders in the maternity pen in such a way that there's plenty of places for mum to lie down, but not so many straight edges for her to lie up against to prevent squashing. It works in the main, but we do still lose piglets to mums lying on them. It's free farrowing. We farrow onto shavings to prevent the piglets getting lost underneath the straw, but we do give the sows straw. As soon as we get milk coming into the udders, they have straw so they can nest and sort of do all the things that they want to do just before farrowing. Quite often, if the sow is quiet enough and if she's happy for me to be in there when she's farrowing, I'll pull the straw away from her at that point as the farrowing starts and push it into the creep area, encouraging the piglets to go into the creep area because it smells like mum. We've also used the placenta, the creep area, piglets, heat lamp was do better and is on. Remember to take the afterbirth out pretty quick. We try to limit the amount of moves and intervention with the pigs as much as possible to prevent any knockbacks. So we vaccinate, we iron, we worm, tattoo if they're pedigrees. At 3 weeks, mum gets her vaccinations at this point too. And at this stage, if the weather allows, we move the pigs from the maternity pen into the outdoor lifetime pen, sows and piglet. The sows will stay with them for a further 4 weeks, establishing their home with her piglets. They learn how the electric fence works at this point, and where the feed and the water is located. We feel that it's just one couple of hours, one afternoon of disruption with injections, moving, etc. It's over as quickly as possible and mum and babies can settle into the fresh ark. It's stuffed full of fresh straw, and they learn to roam around outdoors, learn to root, etc. So we raise each litter as a group. So the hierarchy that was established in the womb continues throughout their life. And we find that this suits the pigs. There's no fighting for position, everyone's happy, they're settled together. And as the pigs reach 20+ weeks, they may be brought out to the paddock and spend the last few days, possibly weeks, indoors in preparation to go off to the abattoir. So we can weigh the pigs, and we just find that walking them off the field is a far nicer experience than trying to load them into a trailer that they've never seen before on the field. So the lifetime pen might change in shape or size depending on the time of year and the availability that we have. We plan size-wise for 15 pigs, but as I mentioned, we're normally weaning about 12. We do have some ladies in the herd that pop out the odd 20-odd pigs in a litter. The most we've actually successfully raised is 17, and that was from a litter of 23. Again, quite often we'll have sort of 14, 15s. So we budget size-wise for 15 to make sure we've got enough space for them all. The pens are electric fenced, and we use a mains operated electric fencing system. It's got a 4.7 joule shock power to it. You can get more powerful systems. We find this is enough for us. And if you read into it, they'll actually say that you should use a slightly more powerful for pigs, but we don't. But believe me, I've had plenty of jolts over the years off the fence, and it's definitely enough. And another point to note there is that never trust a teenager that tells you that they turned the fence off before you need to tighten it or do any work with it. Anyway, each pen, approximately 35 by 25 meters, that's electric fenced. And the arc itself then that we use is 7 meters by 2.5. The troughs that we use to feed the pigs, because they're fed twice a day, and we allow enough headspace for more animals that are actually in the pen. So we use multiple troughs and they're spaced around the pen. We normally find 3 to 5 pigs per trough works for us. And it just gives the timid pigs that are in the litter a bit of a chance to get access to the feed, and everybody gets a full belly. For water, we use an ad-lib water nipple system. We use this in barrels. We'll see some pictures in a sec. And we use this from the point that the pigs go out at 3 to 4 weeks old with their mums up until the time that they're taken from the field and off to the abattoir. The barrels are placed in the pen, so mum can always teach them how to use the nipples straight away. There's a picture of the barrel there on the right-hand side. And the nipples are actually placed at different heights, so everybody gets a chance to get access to the water. So we try to use a different system in the summer to the winter, or a bad summer if we've had a few of those. We'll use pens that are further into the paddock away from the entrance in the summer. We use a quad and trailer to get across the paddock, across a wood chip path. So when that's loaded up with feed, etc., in the summer, it's not generally a problem. And in the winter times, then we'll bring the pens closer into the entrances. We're driving a smaller circle to reduce any churn on the ground. The arcs are then built up onto, they're built on a grassed area, but we'll build it up with a lot of wood chip to raise it from the ground, basically. And the aim is to build the wood chip into an island, so the land actually falls away from the edges. And the aim then is to use wood chip at the front. In the winter, we'll use rubber covered plinths at the front of the arcs, and the feed troughs and the water barrels will be placed on these. And again, it just reduces the churn at the front of the arcs. The pigs can't or don't carry mud or water can't run into the actual pen itself, into the arc. The arcs are, incidentally, we try to make the arcs the size of if they were indoors. It's the total area that they'd have if we were in an indoor situation. Their arc is basically that size plus a bit. And then the outdoor is extra space for them. Okay, so the pigs have still got access outdoors when they've got the rubber mats at the front, but as we probably all know, the pigs aren't massive fans of wind or rain. So generally, in weather like most of us have had today, they'll tend to eat and retreat back into the arc after they've had their breakfast. We've also used extra arc sheeting in the past over troughs. If it is particularly bad, just to prevent the rain getting into the troughs, fill them up with water. The rubber mats, the idea is that they can be scraped of the mud, and it gives you a good solid surface for the pigs to be able to eat and to drink. Summertime, the troughs will be moved around the backs of the pen into the whole paddock area, and water barrels are placed away from the entrances to stop any leaks getting into the arc. Straw is stuffed into the arcs all year round. We've also in the summer had to, particularly this year, to sort of string up sheeting just to give the pigs a little bit of extra shade. They've got the hedges, they've got thick hedges that we can get into as well, but just to prevent any sort of sunburn and give them a bit of extra protection there. Okay, so the grazing rotation strategy. So once the last of the pigs are taken out of the lifetime pen, the pen is then left to recover. This could be anything from 4 months to maybe over a year. Troughs and barrels are taken away to be cleaned, arcs may be taken down and rebuilt, and the ground is left to settle. Depending on the time of year, could be reseeded, and we're about to trial some different paddocks, different mixes. This is so that we can improve the soil structure, and we're going to try different mixes with different legumes, clover, lucerne, maybe some kale, but it's really about getting the root mass there increase the stability of the land. It'll not only give the land a tougher top layer, but it'll also give the boys and girls something interesting to root around into when it's grown. And we plan to use some pig safe conservation mixes in the paths as well to encourage some pollinators. Okay, so feeds and enrichment. We feed them as though they were barn kept indoor pigs. So they have their feed increased. So the intake is actually increased week by week as they grow. And then the sows then are fed on a different strategy, basically based on their gestation period or lactation period to suit them. So any enrichment that they get in the forms of grass, hay, apples, etc., whatever we're going to grow for them next year, is just simply an extra, something to play with. We feed a compound feed, so they're getting everything that they need. So enrichment, when we were indoors, we certainly had to provide a lot of enrichment to stop boredom and vices. We were lucky enough that we didn't have any tail biting. But when we brought the pigs back home to an outdoor situation, we brought all our toys that we'd learned to use over the years. This could be like horse bowls filled with feed, kongs, chains, straw dollies, as you can see in one of the images there. And the truth is the pigs aren't particularly interested in toys outdoors now. They have more space, they have the grass, they have the earth to root in, they've got their straw beds, which are topped up every few days to root through. So, you know, we've got pigs that love to dig enormous holes, we've got others that like to find stones, they've all got their own little quirks that they like to do. And they just seem to be happy just to be. And although they do love the odd paper feed sack to run around with and shake to bits, so they're essentially fed very similarly to when they were barn kept. Interestingly, the pigs do as well in the winter as they do in the summer with us outdoors. Slightly better winter outdoors than they were indoors, because we were really concerned that they were going to lay down more fat by being outdoors. But the arcs, they keep them so toasty warm that isn't actually an issue. Which is great, as long as you keep stuffing them full of straw. And the pigs are never hungry, so they don't tend to destroy much, which is good. Clean water, as we know, is a key combination to good food and a good environment. So we find that the water nipples are the best way that we find to feed the pigs, get the clean water into them. We do offer, as you can see, open water as well, but that's just more of something to play with, something to do. And then obviously in the summer, we put a lot of water down so that they can have their all essential wallows. And that will provide a good sun protection also. Okay, so our breeding policy. As I mentioned, we aim to farrow every 3 weeks because we need to have a consistent supply of pigs all year round, with the exception of Christmas, when everyone and their auntie wants to have a specific sized gammon on their streaky bacon. So we breed pig in February and March, June, July, October, November on 4 farrow spaces, so it can be a lot of cross at that time or throughout the year, in actual fact, to make sure that everybody is pregnant when they should be pregnant. We aim to be as natural as possible, but occasions arise, maybe where the boar is related to the sows. So we then use AI. We're currently using a lot of AI because he is so related now to a lot of our girls. And we're crossing back over to being 100% pedigree Welsh pigs, as opposed to the majority of the herd is purebred at the moment. So we house the boar separately, and he may have 1 to 3 ladies with him at any one time. If we're AIing, that's generally performed outdoors. We do it at breakfast time and tea time. Again, our boar has winter and summer options. So in the winter, he needs to be on a good hard surface to be able to service the girls. So he is brought in indoors at that point. But when the weather allows, he's out and he's behind the same electric fence as the rest of the finisher, or as the rest of the herd, basically, including the finishers. It's actually the sows that will cause a problem and break through fences to get to him if they're in heat. Okay, so we take, so when we do wean the sow, we'll take her away somewhere that she can't see or smell the boar or her piglets, and then it just saves an awful lot of stress in repairing fences and basically just giving her what she wants, really. Okay, so keeping the pigs healthy. Strict biosecurity is how one of the things that we do to keep our herd healthy. We don't allow anybody on that doesn't need to be on. Anybody that does come on, if we have vets or vet students, they need to wear our wellies, our overalls, etc., and make sure that they've been pig free for at least 72 hours. Things like rotating the pens will help to prevent the land from being pig sick. Looking after equipment as though it was indoors, washing and cleaning it, sanitising. What's massively important to us is that we have twice yearly visits from our pig specialist vet. These are absolutely invaluable, knowing what our health herd status is and looking after it, vaccinating, etc. So it's just worth noting here that Moch actually offer herd health planning funding. It's really not as scary as you think that it is, and it's well worth the effort. Healthy pigs will make you more profitable. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got target weights and ages to meet. That's the only thing that makes us profitable. And you can only really do this with having a healthy herd. So it's the only way to make profit and pay those bills. So the butchery and marketing of the pork. So apparently butchery, it's the dark art, according to my husband. It's taken us many years to set up the butchery. We started off buying second-hand equipment to get us started, and then just upgrading as we went along. So we've now got a cutting room, a preparation room, a walk-in fridge, a storage room, refrigerated van, and it's still not enough space. So there's lots of equipment to get you started, but it can be done. We vacuum pack all our produce, so we get a 10-day shelf life from it. We've had product testing for longer, but we just stick to 10 days. The aim is to sell all of the carcass the same week that it's returned from the abattoir. We freeze as little as we possibly can, and we try to use or sell all of the animal, therefore reducing waste. So we sell everything from trotters, any spare skin for crackling and scratchings. We sell bones for stock. We make and sell stock ourselves. Offal goes into faggots. As we all know, pigs are so versatile, and we don't want any waste. So marketing, as I mentioned previously, we sell 99% of the pork ourselves these days. There's just one or two trade customers that we deal with now, mostly because they want to buy the product and it suits us to sell them what we have available as opposed to made to order. They understand our process and what we have. So not dealing with the trade is now through choice. It was a forced choice initially when the pandemic hit. 80% of our business was trade and restaurants. It was never actually our intention to supply the trade, but that's, with the world being the way that it was in terms of convenience, we ended up that our market was more of the trade customers, the restaurants, etc. It's nice knowing that your name is on the menu of a Michelin-starred restaurant, but the volumes that are needed to actually turn a profit is huge. And for us, selling to Mrs. Jones down the road and her sending a WhatsApp image of the roast that she's just made for her family and telling you how much she's enjoyed it, it is just fantastic. And from a business point of view, it means that we can be a smaller herd and we can be more profitable. So it's not that we charge an exorbitant amount for our pork, it's just a fair price for a good quality product is what we feel. We've always attended farmers markets and offered a delivery service, but as I said, once the pandemic hit, home deliveries in particular really did take off. And currently, most of these customers have stuck around. It's been fantastic. We've been so grateful. very grateful to social media as well, and the ability to be able to have a shop on a website. We don't have a physical shop on site here. We literally just do deliveries once a week. So we open up with our fresh pork on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and then we deliver it on a Friday. So animals are taken in on a Monday, they're back on a Tuesday, and most of which go out on a Friday, markets then on a Saturday and a Sunday. We did choose, when the restaurants opened back up, we decided not to sell into this market any longer. It was a hard decision and it felt a little bit wrong to refuse orders, but it was one of the best decisions that we've made. Our intention was always to produce locally raised food and to supply it to local people. And that's currently what we're doing. So thank you for listening. My favourite subject is pig. Thank you for listening, and I'd love to have any questions that you might have.
Susie?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Talking about the breeding,
yes,
you were breaking up. So could you go back and talk about the breeding again, please? Because we had a request.
I'm sorry.
Repeat that. Well, it's not your fault. But you were the sound quality failed at that point.
Okay.
So can you run through that again, please?
Let's have a look. The breeding policy. Okay. So we aim to farrow every 3 weeks because we need to have a consistent supply of pigs all year round, with the exception of Christmas. And at that point, everybody wants a specific size gammon and lots of streaky bacon. So we need to have more pigs available to us. So the ladies in our breeding calendar, we put more pigs in pig around February and March, farrowing in June and July, and then that's ready for sort of end of October, November onwards. We've only actually got 4 farrowing spaces in our maternity wing, so it can be a lot of crossing fingers throughout the year, hoping that pigs do actually become pregnant and farrow at the point that you want them to, and the correct numbers as well. So the aim is to be as natural as possible, but there are occasions where the boar is either related to sows or we have reasons that we need to AI. So we are currently using a lot of AI at the moment because we're crossing back over to being 100% pedigree Welsh pigs. The majority of the herd is purebred at the moment, purebred Welsh. So we house the boar separately. And he'll have between 1 and 3 ladies with him at any one time for natural service, or if we're AI in as well. We generally perform the AI outdoors, and this will be done at breakfast and tea time. The boar has a winter-summer option. He can or will be in over the winter because that then gives us a chance to put him on a good hard surface so that he can service the sows without any injury to him or to them. If the land is solid enough in the summer, then he'll be out and he can actually serve outdoors. He's just kept behind an electric fence, the same as the finishers. And I mentioned earlier, it's actually the sows that'll go breaking fences to get to him. So it's always just kind of, we tend to sort of think or try to think like them at that point. They will want to get to their piglets. They'll want to get, once they've been weaned, they want to get back to the boar, back to their piglets. So just take the sow away so she can't hear or smell the boar. And then we introduce her then sort of, as I said, we cover about 3 to 5 days normally post weaning. I think that's all I covered for breeding, I think. But if there's any questions, I'm quite happy to answer those anyway.
Oh, we've got quite a few questions for you.
Okay.
The first one's from Anne, who said she's very interested to know how you rigged up your barrel nipple drinkers. So perhaps you could explain a little bit about that, please.
Oh, it's a secret. No. They are just basically blue barrel drinkers. I'll just bring the picture back up again there. Can everybody see that? Can you see that, Pat?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. So they have been drilled and drilled with, what's the word I'm looking for? A thread inside them. So when you buy the nipple drinkers, which you can get anywhere, Amazon, eBay, and they have a thread already on them, and you can literally, as long as your drill bit has a thread on it and it's the same diameter, bore size, then you can just literally screw them in. And we use a specific sealant, which is, it's basically safe for fish tanks. So we know it's not going to poison anybody. It's what they use in the sealant that they use for fish tanks. So we use that just to hold it in place as well. They do twist them. They can undo them and let 220 litres of water out over the floor. That is something that they can do, but it's very rare, to be honest. But yeah, if that helps at all, you just need to be able to drill a hole that's got a thread on it and pop them in. Is
there a how do you fill the barrel? Is that just a hose pipe, or have you
just a hose pipe? Yeah, there's generally two holes at the top of them. I've got some with one hole, I've got some with two. Just fill them up with a hose pipe. And depending on how many pigs you've got out there, and how many barrels you've got in the pen, they can last for quite a while, to be honest. But obviously the idea is that you've got fresh water, so you want them to sort of drink through the water quite quickly as well to make sure that it's fresh. But yeah, just a hose pipe. I mean, if you're really smart, you could have a timer on your hose pipe, and then you wouldn't have to do very much at all.
No.
The other thing that we're about to rig up now is, in terms of water conservation, is some of the buildings that we do have, we're about to have troughing off those that will go directly into the barrels as well. So we'll be using rainwater, and yeah, so that's something that we're looking to do now in the next few months.
Yeah, one comment was that you could put a ball valve on the barrels. I suppose that's like you've got in the system for the WC, is it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a great idea.
That's good. Anne said thank you very much. We've had another question in about how many sows and replacements do you have on your 5 acres?
Not many at the moment. So there's 12 breeding animals in total with us, and we're going to see how that goes. Like I said, the requirements have changed for us, because we're now supplying the consumer directly as opposed to the restaurants. We don't need as big a herd as we used to have. So yeah, there's currently 12. Well, in fact, there's 10 working animals and 2 replacements coming in.
So another question on that line was, how many pigs do you finish a year? And what are your plans for the future?
More of the same, plans for the future. We just love doing what we do. We don't ever want to grow any bigger than we are. We just want to have a good, sustainable business. So yeah, more of the same is the answer to that question, really. And in terms of how many pigs, it really does depend. On an average week, it's 3+ pigs that are going off to the abattoir every single week. I mean, we basically kill, what will it be, 49 weeks of the year. And like I said, Christmas time, depending on numbers that we've got, that could be anything up to 10. So that if that answers the question, really.
Yeah, I think that does. Claire would like to know, do you build the arks yourself, or if not, where do you get them from, and how much do they cost?
We build them ourselves. We bought the sheets from somewhere in Birmingham, if I remember rightly, and then the fronts of the arks. So the fronts of the arks you need to see as a consumable item, because the pigs will chew them, they will break them down, it's a tremendous game. So you need to see that as a consumable project, and just keep replacing those basically. But because the plan is to dismantle them and rebuild them, it kind of doesn't matter in that respect anyway. Sheets, from what I've heard recently, they're like gold dust. They're struggling to kind of, people are struggling to find them at the moment. And like I said, it was a number of years ago that we bought them now, but it was cheaper for us to go up with the trailer. I can't remember how many times we went up and literally filled the trailer as much as we could and just brought them back and made our own. It just means that you can build them to the size that you want them to be as well. But they're quite easy to do, says she who didn't build them. But that's what husbands are for. But yeah.
Another question we've got here is, are all your sows together? The ones that presumably aren't suckling, your dry sows.
Okay, so we are about to build a dynamic sow pen. So then they will all be together, unless they're in the farrowing house. But currently they live in their groups. So generally it'll be this month and next month's farrowings live together. It's easier to do that for us just because of the way that the housing works, and also in terms of their feed. So they'll be fed very similarly, because we do try to change their feed throughout the gestation period. So currently, no, they're not all housed together. They have been in the past, but they're about to go back together again. What I would say with that is what we found is that our girls prefer to live in smaller groups. So we'll have multiple houses within a larger pen. And then they can choose who they want to buddy up with, and sleeping arrangements and things like that. They tend to sort of stick to it. That's what we found in the past. So they'll have they're just like us really, aren't they? You know, they'll have the other sows they like, the sows they don't like, and they tend to buddy up and prefer to have like a smaller arc. So for example, the one that's in the picture that you can see here now, that arc would be maybe sort of a third of that size, and maybe 2 sows would live in that together.
We've got another question about the arcs. Have they got floors?
No.
No, that's a quick answer. And then another question about the tents. What were the tents lined with to stop them being torn by the pigs?
Okay, let me find them. They were they were brilliant
board
/ hard work. Yes, so you can buy them. I can't remember the name of the people that make them. They're quite expensive. So if you can see down the bottom of the image there, I can't find anything to use to point. I don't know if you can see my cursor at the bottom right there. So they're square tubed metal frames basically, and then they're lined with not EcoBoard, what's it called?
Stockboard.
Some of them were smooth, some of them are textured. They're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. They are 8x4 in size, and they have enormous pins that join them together. They're blooming heavy. But those tents were pretty good. Yeah, they were a lot of hard work, but yeah, we raised some cracking pigs in those tents. And we had automatic water feeders in them as well. But you need incredibly well-draining land to sustain those, and a large digger to be able to clean them out afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Hope that helped.
We have another question here. How often do you replace the boar, and how do you source him, please?
Okay. So we're currently about to replace our boar. As I said, we're in the process of moving back over to 100% pedigree. So we've just gone through the process of buying in 2 gilts to start with, which are pedigrees. We went through blood testing with our herds and with the herd that they came from, just to make sure that everybody was aware of health statuses, etc. So it's quite a big deal to us because we've been a closed herd for many years. And those 2 pedigree girls will AI with semen from Northern Ireland and that will be our new boar. So he's not going to be up and around for about 2 years. 18 months to 2 years. So we'll continue to use our boar until then. I'm terrible with the boars. I hang on to them for way too long, probably because I get a little bit attached to them. But they're generally 3-4 years. That's generally how long they'll be around with us, to be honest. If they become a little ineffective, if they are not working quite so well, we just use them as teasers then, and we're lucky enough that we can buy semen that we want. So we'll just AI then and use him, particularly if he's a calm, good-natured boar that's particularly stinky and good with the girls. So we'll use him as a tease. So generally sort of 3 to 4 years, which I know isn't really how we should be doing. I think sort of 18 months is kind of ideal, isn't it, really? But we do keep them a little bit longer than we probably should.
That's good. Another question here about what age you slaughter your piglets at?
24 weeks, roughly. So on average, 24 weeks. We have, I think 16 is probably the youngest we've ever done. You always get the odd 1 or 2 that'll kind of in the litter that are bigger than everybody else. Again, it depends how big the litter is because we slaughter every week. So you might get them hanging around. They're never here longer than 30 weeks. But our aim is around the 24 mark.
Good, thank you. That answers that question. Right, the next question. We're making you work for your supper tonight. How do you stop the water freezing in the winter?
Okay, the plastic barrels that we looked at just now, for some reason, they seem to be particularly insulated and only the actual nipple themselves will freeze. So you'll have this little sort of shaft of ice in there. So you can either pour just a little bit of warm water over it, or you can literally unpick it and the ice comes free. And the water, because the top of the barrel will freeze as opposed to the bottom where the water's coming from. So that does work particularly well. And then obviously, you could insulate a lot of the barrel as well if you wanted to, but I reckon the pigs would probably eat it and take it off, to be fair.
They probably would, yes. So that's in the summer, somebody wants to know how you stop them getting sunburn because they're pink pigs.
Indeed. So wallows. So I learned a lot about wallows this year because we had a particularly hot summer. So you want them to be the consistency of wallpaper. And get a good old coverage. So there's one of my girls demonstrating this perfectly for us here. If it'll go to that, there we go. So yeah, that's a wonderful sun protection, basically. That or Nivea Factor 50. There's a couple of our ladies that don't. They do like to wallow, but they don't get the all important bits. Their ears are particularly susceptible to it. So a good Factor 50 is what we use there.
That's good. And another question. What weight do you send your bacon pigs off at?
There'll be 70 kilos plus dead weight.
And is that the same for your pork? Do all pigs go on the same weight, or you don't keep the bacon pigs heavier?
No. So 70 is our target. We wouldn't make bacon out of anything small. Well, anything bigger than that, to be honest. So yeah, anywhere between 60 and 70 is what suits our customers. That's the kind of the size of the slice that they prefer to have. So between 60 and 70 dead weight, really.
So what's that live weight?
Our kill out is 70%. So what will that be? 100 kilos, 90 plus for the smaller ones, 100 kilos dead weight. Live weight, sorry.
And that's at about 24 weeks.
Yeah.
So they grow well.
Well, they're Welsh. Of course,
Of course they are, yes. From very good breeding stock, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Any more questions? Oh, hang on, we've got another question coming in now. No, it was just saying thank you.
Oh.
So has anybody got anything else they'd like to ask Susie? I could keep her going all night asking questions.
Please make it pig related. I have no idea about anything else.
Well, I don't know. You're quite good on the marketing as well. Right. And it doesn't look like anybody else has got a question. So I'll put my video on again. Do you want to, oh, hang on. Yes, we've got a question. No, they were just taking a breather. They're all coming back on again now. Right, more questions. I don't know where it is. Oh, right. Do you sell all individual joints or do you sell meat boxes?
All individual joints.
Yeah.
When we started, we did what we used to call a selection box. So we basically had a pig back, and we divided it into, I think it was 10 boxes we'd get out of one pig. So you had a selection box, and it was like a fixed price, and that's what we did when it was a hobby. And that worked particularly well, but we were kind of giving the pork away. If you look, it didn't make any commercial sense, really. That wouldn't have been a standalone business, if that makes sense. So then we went to individual cuts. It's simply not worth it for us to do a half pig. And we tend to find as well that people don't have space to keep a quarter of a pig or half a pig. So yeah, we only do individual cuts now.
How did you arrive at your pricing strategy? How did you what sort of market research did you do when you were thinking about, you know, how much you were going to charge? You know what your cost of production is. Was it that plus was it the cost of production plus a margin, or did you look at the competitors? How did you come about?
We looked around. So I think, well, in my opinion, when you look at pork, I mean, you're not comparing apples with apples. If you look at a packet of Richmond sausages compared to a handmade pack of sausages, for example. So, you know, looking at the right places, Red Hills? They've got a really good farm shop. You know, if you look at similar farm shop sites that are similar to you, so, you know, outdoor herds or whatever the rare breeds as we've got, and there's plenty of people out there with pricing to have a look at, and it tends to kind of generally be around the same sort of price. But obviously, I mean, most importantly from a business point of view, you've got to look at your cost, which is why we've got targets such as 70 kilo carcass at 24 weeks, for example. And then make sure that you are, you know, that like I said earlier, I mean, we're not cheap, but I believe that we charge a fair price for the quality of product that somebody's getting, you know, for the work that goes into them. And it's I think it's quite derogatory to the pig, isn't it, if you're giving it away anyway. So yeah, I mean, we just looked around similar types of businesses then to us, mostly on the internet. And we did look at like Waitrose's pork prices, Marks and Spencer's, their sort of free range pork prices, that kind of thing, just to get a feel for what other people were charging really, and what I thought was fair.
That's good. one gentleman said that it's been very thought-provoking and was concerned that his holding's too small to do pigs properly, but he needs to rethink it now.
Oh, good.
And maybe his hobby can pay for itself.
Great.
So that's good.
I would
And
say,
also,
careful what you wish for. I now have no life. This is my life.
and we have another question about the reseeding. When you reseed your grass, do you rotivate and roll, or do you just broadcast it? What exactly is the procedure for when you're reseeding?
It's a new experiment for us, and we're just going to leave it as it is. We're not. They churn it up enough that it's not too solid, so it'll literally be as is. And I suppose the beauty is as well that we're not going to be, as long as it's suitable to seed onto, but we're not going to be cropping anything off it. We're not going to be harvesting anything from it. It's just for them to root through all over again. So as long as it will grow, we don't feel, and otherwise you're going to lose the structure of the soil, and the whole point is to create a stronger structure. So we won't be doing much like that. I mean, if it is a case of hand raking over the top, if there's a specific area that needs it, but other than that, no.
And somebody else wants to know what type of soil you have.
Wet, very, very wet. We're only about 17 meters above sea level here, so we do have clay not very far down. Yeah, so it's quite solid. We're not beautiful sandy well draining soil here, so it takes quite a bit of work, which is why we use a lot of wood chips, to be honest, just to give us a bit of solid ground, bit of stability for the pigs.
That's good. Well, I think you've had a good lot of questions asked for you there, Susie, so I think you've got everyone thinking about what they can do. So I think, do you want to stop sharing your screen now and we can see your smiley face?
Oh, okay.
Please.
Sorry, I thought you might do. Oh, there you are.
There you go. There she is. There's our pig lady. So yeah. Thank you very much, Susie. That was really it was really interesting, and it's nice to hear that a small scale unit can be profitable and productive, because it's a very productive unit you've got, and it's all down to how you manage it. So well done.
Oh, thank you. I hope it was useful to people. So
yeah, I think you've probably inspired a lot of people. There's a lot of thanks coming in now.
Oh.
So what I've got to say now is not as interesting as what Susie had to say, because I've now got to say you're going to see in the chat the link to the evaluation form. So it's in there now, I think. And if you would please take time to just click on it and fill it in, because we've got to have feedback, because we're audited. And if you don't tell us how we're doing, our funders might say we're not doing very well, so we can't have any more money. So and we can't put more things on. So please, could you fill in the evaluation form? And if you enjoyed the talk here with Susie, we have got a virtual small producers group which meets online every 3 or 4 weeks, I think, run by Ellen, who's my colleague. And the next one is on the 20th of October at 7:30, and it's going to be with a vet from the pig specialist practice, the George, and it's Annie Davis, and she's going to talk about breeding. Now, these meetings are interactive. It's not like she's just going to sit and talk at you, so you can ask questions. So if any of you would like to join in this virtual group, just drop us an email and we'll let you know more nearer the time and remind you. But and then on that meeting, the people who are at the meeting then decide what else they'd like to have a specialist come and talk to them about, I think they've had marketing. Am I right, Ellen? Are you still there? I don't lead it, so I don't know. But
we've had a few different topics.
Yes. What have you had so far?
Yeah, we've had one on marketing. We've had one on butchery and processing. What else have we had?
And the next
yeah, just a few businesses, you know, pork businesses in general too. Yeah, whatever someone would like to hear from.
Yeah, so if you let us know, you can join in. I've already had somebody say that they'd like to already, but they're very they're interactive and very informative, and it's relaxed. It's not like you're in a school, so that's good. And the other thing that we have got, which some of you may like to participate in, is our funded herd health planning. We can offer up to £400 for the vet to do your health plan if you've got enough pigs. So if you want to know about that, then get in touch, because it's really important that the Welsh pig herd is healthy. And the way to do that is to know what your diseases on your farm are. So that's that. And I don't think there's anything else that I need to tell them. Is there, Ellen?
No, I don't think so. Everything like that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. And thank you very much, Susie. And I hope that you've all got plenty to think about now, and we'll see you all again soon.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Susie. Brilliant
Thanks,
session.
Susie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.